Welcome, y'all, to another episode of the Southern Comfort Podcast. I'm your boy, Big Rich.
Kevin Harris.
Kev, how we feeling, man?
I'm feeling good. I was about to tell you to tip your hat down because I put my Howard hat on just because you had your Morehouse hat on. So must be,
It's down.
yeah,
We down.
yeah, that's right. You
We
know,
down. We down. We down. Man, how was the Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving was great. We had some friends in town, so we did it the Florida way, which the Florida way for us means spending time on the beach. So my wife got up, finished cooking, then we went to the beach, then we came back and ate, and everything came out really good, man. I think I forgot if I sent you a picture of the turkey, but it came out good.
Y'all just had turkey?
No, we had turkey, we had collard greens, we had what else did we have? Ham, of course, uh dressing. Feel like I'm missing a couple things, but macaroni and cheese. Those were the highlights.
Eventually, I say this every year, but eventually we're going to do a non-traditional
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving meal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I guess us being Southern, like a typical Thanksgiving meal is almost like a weekly meal for us
It is.
growing up,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Like macaroni and cheese, greens, like you
That's
can get that
Sunday.
any given Sunday, right?
Yeah. But also it's so close to Christmas too. So
Yeah.
like what we started doing is Christmas, usually we have lamb. My wife will make like a ram, Lord, a
Rack
rack
around,
of lamb.
never around.
Yes. Or something like that, to kind of, differentiate it a little bit. Um, but we did a non-traditional Thanksgiving. This was years ago when we were living in Baltimore and we had some family in town. And it was crabs and some other stuff. And they enjoyed it because these were this was like my father-in-law. They used to the traditional Southern way, so we didn't know how it would go with them, kind of mixing it up.
Yeah.
But like, no, they
Yeah.
loved it.
Well, eventually we'll do it. Get around to it. It is what it is. Um, but no, did you participate in Black Friday? Are you a Black Fridayer?
Not really, and I certainly wouldn't have been going out anywhere dealing with that. Like I don't really do crowds and people if I don't have to. So certainly wasn't gonna go do that for something I can order online. But like, no, I didn't do any Black Friday shopping. Now my wife did some Black Friday shopping for herself, of course. And I think the biggest thing that she got that Debbie Allen Barbie doll. And so she was very
Wait, what?
happy. You know, Debbie Allen had a Barbie doll?
No.
Bro, Debbie Allen has a Barbie doll. My Howard sister.
Yo, big ups to Debbie Allen. For those who don't know who Debbie Allen is, first of all, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I guess
Right?
we could just unilaterally just go ahead and declare she's the Mamba moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
listen,
Okay. Yeah.
spot on, right?
Yeah.
Like she's a legend. A legend. Like
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes. That's probably why people really wouldn't know who she is.
Mm-hmm.
But she's just a phenomenal woman across the board, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like she can dance, she can act, she can write, she can direct, she
Mm-hmm.
can probably sing,
Yeah.
she probably can cook, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's no doubt in my mind that Debbie Allen is just like a Renaissance woman all around.
Yep. Yep. For sure. And she has her academy out in Los Angeles, where she's doing a lot with the next generation. And you saw here recently when Mr. Copeland retired, and one of the people she had on the stage, kind of giving their flowers to, was Debbie Allen. So she definitely is documentary worthy. We need a Debbie documentary. I
Yes.
mean, Diddy got
Listen,
one, so I don't know why Debbie Allen can't get one.
not only should there be a Debbie documentary, there should be a movie about her and her sister,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
or even a TV show just centered around their lives, right? Like for those who don't know, Debbie Allen's sister is Phylicia Rashad,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And so these two women who are pivotal in just like revolutionizing the role of Black woman in television,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're
Mm-hmm.
they're a part of that, and so yeah, man, both Howard graduates, right?
Yep. Both
Yeah.
went to Howard, and Phylicia Rashad, she actually returned back to Howard. She was the dean of the fine arts school for a little bit of time there too. And so
Oh,
I did,
shaky.
but I cherish that experience for the students there, because imagine just being able to walk across campus and like she's right there and she's
Yeah.
accessible
Yeah.
to you, right? And so I treasure that, and I give her a lot of credit for that, because a lot of times, not all of our talent don't go back, um, to teach, or to impart their wisdom on the next generation. And when I was there, I actually took a class with Ruby D and Ossie Davis
Mm.
while I was at Howard. Now they didn't teach like every week. They came in, I think, like 3 or 4 times over the course of the semester, but it was a course like led by them. And so I always love that when folks try to go back, and every opportunity, I get to go back to try to do something. I ain't no Debbie Allen, so they ain't getting that kind of wisdom. But I say my little stuff.
Yeah. And it's funny, I just don't think the kids who are on the yard now, would they even acknowledge and realize the legend of one Phylicia Rashad and one Debbie Allen, right? Like, I think Morehouse, we had this thing called new student orientation for
Mm-hmm.
freshmen, incoming freshmen, and right for the first two
Mm-hmm.
weeks, and this was my tenure. And I think kind of ended after my tenure.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of drilled in our head to know who the alumni were and why they were so special, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just knowing like, oh, that's Phylicia Rashad. They could be like, who? And it just,
Mm-hmm.
even now, just realizing like, I look at a lot of artists, young artists now, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of rappers, and they don't acknowledge that, like the older rappers and the legends that they are, or even the new
Mm-hmm.
basketball players, kind of trying to poo-poo on the legends that came before them, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
so it's just always interesting to see that. But
Yeah.
uh, Debbie Allen,
But with basketball, speaking of Allens, the basketball, what I am very happy about is one OG, and it's so funny to say he's an OG now, but one OG that I do see the new generation of basketball players give a lot of props to is AI. Now
and
they seem to
well,
like know
AI, the
him.
real AI,
The
the
real
real AI,
AI, the
the real AI.
original AI, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
seem to like really know him and give him his flowers. And I love that he's getting his flowers now, because I felt like when he was playing, so much of like the messaging around him was that he was what was like wrong, right? He was too urban, he had too many tattoos, and he wasn't like the good kind of role model, right? And now, everybody sees that that was bullshit, and he's actually getting his flowers and his recognition, for his influence, right, on the game. Because remember, they didn't even want to let this dude play in the Olympics. And it was purely just his appearance. It wasn't, is this what we want to have represent America? And I'm like, every team, this is what they look like. You know what I mean? So Allen Iverson can't represent the United States, right? So anyway, I'm glad that the young heads today seem to recognize that. And of course, Kobe.
We can go on and on, and eventually, I think we'll eventually start expanding the palette of this podcast, right?
Mhm.
Um, but right now, we're so entrenched in what's going on with our everyday lives and kitchen table issues and policy. And I'm always reminded around Thanksgiving and after Thanksgiving in that time, it kind of reminds me of the Doug Jones era, because, I was still on the road away from my family during the holiday season.
Mhm.
I ended up cooking Thanksgiving food for the Alabama crew
Mhm.
because we had a runoff to go to. And like just this past week, we had a special runoff again in Tennessee, right? And that's
Mhm.
something I kind of want to focus on about this episode about we've been talking about the last few episodes. Are the Democrats going to build off their momentum, right? And
Mhm.
so this new wave we want to call the Dem-mentum, right? Or do we have it? While Republicans are fighting internally about battles and their leadership showing troubling signs of decline, right? Democrats are building real momentum here heading in 2026.
Mhm.
From Tennessee's, they had a near upset
Mhm,
in
mhm,
a plus 22, I'm gonna say plus 22 Trump district. I'm not gonna say plus 22 Republican district because uh, black political leadership is reaching new heights, right?
mhm.
And even in Tennessee, we want to kind of talk about how this episode examines how Democrats can capitalize on Republican chaos, really, and what it means for the midterms.
Mhm, mhm.
And so, I want to focus on um, what happened in Tennessee for a second, and I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. If you haven't been paying attention, her name is Afton Bain,
Mhm, mhm.
and she was running for Congress. And what district was it?
7. Mhm,
Seventh congressional district.
mhm.
Um, and I think what's interesting about this, right? Like Trump won this district 22 points, and after she lost it in a loss by what, 8 points, 9 points?
9, yeah.
So just going to show you that um, in the midterm level, turnout isn't just uh, turnout is very important, right? This isn't it's a moral victory, and I will acknowledge that it being a moral victory, but it's hard evidence in terms of momentum for the Democrats, right? She ran against a guy named Matt Von Epps, who was the incumbent,
Mhm,
but she ran on the message of feeding kids, fixing the roads, and funding hospitals, right?
mhm.
Versus Von Epp, who was this MAGA warrior, right? He's just posturing,
Yep,
postering,
yep.
right? It was not about issues. And once again, if you focus on the issues, right, like you can kind of erase those MAGA lines and let people know Republicans have children. Republicans drive on roads, just like Democrats have children. Democrats drive on roads.
Mhm,
Kids need to be fed. The roads need to be fixed. There needs to be funds for the hospital, right?
mhm,
Right. There isn't a hospital for Democrats. There isn't a hospital for Republicans.
mhm,
Right. And so the numbers tell a different story. A 13-point swing from Trump's margin in the 2024 election
mhm,
to now, this midterm turnout.
mhm,
And that matters. Democrats who set out in 2020 showed up in December for a special election,
mhm,
right?
mhm, mhm,
And that is important in terms of nationally, right? That when you think about going into the midterms for 2026,
mhm,
what we call the D trip or the DCC, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee,
mhm.
they're going to target more seats now, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
They made Republicans spend an exorbitant amount of money to protect that seat. So
Mhm,
now
mhm.
that's what you want. You want them to spend their money in seats that they may be concerned about losing.
Yeah, that should be safe seats for them. And it's a nice, even though we came up short in that race, which I think, we wouldn't have been surprised. We would have loved it, right, if she had flipped it. But, every conventional wisdom was that we were just working to get that race as close as possible. And I think to go from 22 points to 9 is pretty remarkable. And that district, there's just one big urban area, which is basically Nashville and the suburbs, and then the rest of it is just rural and red. And so that means to get it down to 9, we had to overperform everywhere, right? We overperformed in the urban and the rural, and it shows the importance of how you have to run in the South, right? You have to compete everywhere. You have to engage. You can't do the old formula of if we can just get out the cities, we're good. Like you have to go into the towns and rural communities. And I think what we're seeing is what you find is that, folks had the same common concerns. And a lot of that is around affordability. And, they weren't able to really to really blunt the momentum by just trying to create this caricature of us. And so many times Democrats fall into that trap too. And we did a pretty good job of navigating that here, and I think it's consistent with what we saw in other big races in November, particularly in the South. When you look at Virginia and the big wins that we saw in Georgia, and I think that now that we've had this Tennessee race, you see a coalescing around obviously what our focus and what our messaging should be going into the midterms next year, and that's That's affordability, and the Republicans know it. The White House even knows it, right? You see stories popping out saying where President Trump is going to focus more on it, and you see his polling slipping as well, where people are not sort of the grace period is over, right? Like a lot of times when you take over as president, people give you a little bit of grace to kind of finish what the last guy left. Now people are just kind of like, nah, nah, you've been there long enough. This is your economy now. Stuff is still expensive, and you're seeing it affect his approval rating. And so what will be interesting as we go into next year, based on the results that we've seen this year too, is, Trump deserves a lot of credit because he does do a good job of getting like infrequent voters out to vote. And those folks are starting to kind of pull away from the coalition. And the other part about that too is that like those people aren't necessarily Republicans. They're just Trump voters. And so if those folks are pulling away, um, that could mean while Democrats are energized at the same time, that could mean trouble for Republicans in the midterms next year and some real opportunities for Democrats that we maybe didn't see a year ago.
Yeah, and one of the critiques on Afton Bain's message
Hmm.
was that was she too progressive?
Hmm.
But, I would think that maybe her working class message was actually working, right? And so now you could say, well, Tennessee was just one case, or one race, but you also have Virginia and New Jersey, to now where we can start seeing a pattern emerge,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right? Like while Republicans are, posturing and trying to be a MAGA warrior and thinking
Hmm.
that what's work, if you bring it back to the issues, because now one of your prize MAGA warriors in Marjorie Taylor Greene took it back to table kitchen ish table kitchen kitchen table kitchen table
That
issues,
boy got
right?
a
And
table
so,
kitchen.
but um, and now we're seeing things come back to reality, right? Like,
Mhm.
snap back to reality. Oh,
Mhm.
there goes gravity. Oh, I'm sorry.
Eminem.
It's interesting, right? Like it's not a fluke,
Mhm.
right? Like
Mhm.
when we talk about again what matters the most, and that is was how it's hitting people's pockets,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think we are going to see some things coming into 2026 that is going to be unique, right? Like
Mhm.
Republicans are starting to show very psychotic behavior.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
you got your boy Byron Donalds calling Trump daddy, right? Like, you got House Republicans clamoring over what happened in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Um, right. And now you got your fearless leader, Donald Trump,
Mhm.
falling asleep in meetings,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
like if you're tired of your president, sleep in the meetings, saying cuckoo stuff, you know what I'm saying? Come to death row. Right? And so now Republicans who crucified Biden for his aging issues,
Mhm.
now as Trump is displaying those same symptoms and they're quiet, they're silent, right? And hypocrisy has consequences, bruh.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think people see that, right? And it's been a couple of missteps, right? There's that misalignment between what people are primarily focused on is affordability issues, but it seems like the president's attention is everywhere else, right? Like literally, he's asleep. He's literally asleep, right? In meetings. In addition to that, you have the issue happening with Venezuela, and the boats and the drugs, where they're saying we're shooting these boats to stop drugs from coming into the country. But most of the drugs that come into the country don't come through the Caribbean. It actually comes through Mexico. And there's some concern around whether or not any of that is lawful that they're doing. And then we still have Epstein that's out there, right? Haha, haven't forgotten. Files still aren't out. So it's like all this stuff that's just kind of creating this a narrative that they literally are asleep at the wheel and not focused on affordability. And that creates a real opportunity for Democrats, right? If we can capitalize on it. And a part of capitalizing on it, going back to a point you just made, is getting away from that stupid debate that we had in the Tennessee race about whether or not she was too progressive or whether or
Right.
not we would have done better with a moderate candidate. And what we should know from the results of these elections is that that's stupid. It doesn't matter, right? Run on what's popular, right? Run on what's popular, not on what's progressive or not on what's conservative. Run on what is popular and listen to people when they tell you what they want, right? We say all the time, voters are very transactional, right? They want to know, well, what are you going to do for me and what do I get out of this, right? And Democrats got to continue to meet people where they are, right? And focus on the issues that are most important to them. And what we're seeing is that when we do that, we win, regardless of if they call us a socialist or or whatever, right? Whatever name they want to come up with. It tends to not stick and work if your primary focus is focused on what people want and what they want to see, and you have a real vision and a plan. That's how in the same year somebody like Mondani can win big at the same time Abigail Spanberger wins big in Virginia.
Right. Right.
Ideologically, they are not the same, but it doesn't matter. Both were focused on what what their constituents cared about, and that's what Democrats have to remember. And we got to get away from all this intra-party fighting. Like that was so stupid after that Tennessee race where we're stepping on the message where we should be kind of talking about how we had Republicans running scared. Instead, we're sitting here talking about, well, she was too progressive. She was too stupid, dumb,
Stupid.
just dumb.
Right. Right. And being able to acknowledge your victories and then highlight them and
Right,
push. Right.
right.
Right. Like, because eventually, where we have, people like AOC and Mondani
Hmm.
and who are pushing these progressive issues, eventually we're going to move towards that, right? Because people are going to get fed up.
And that's what people want, right? People want, they want healthcare. Um, they want a shot. They want an opportunity. They want to feel like government is for them and not against them. And if you aren't making my life easier, then why do I need you? Why do I need this process, right? And
Right.
if you speak to those things, they reward you, right? I mean, my Donnie, as an he had people coming out of the woodwork to vote, to participate in the process. You know what I mean? So,
Right. And again, there is policy dysfunction on full display
hmm,
with the Republicans, right? It's not just Trump's personal decline. You're right. When you talk about it, there is still no healthcare plan,
no, they're
right?
struggling.
After nearly, 10 plus years of promising to repeal and replace Obamacare, like Republicans have yet to produce anything, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
Right.
they are struggling. They've not coalesced around a plan. This was one of the things that Democrats secured in the shutdown negotiations, where we're going to get a vote on health care. I think probably next week. And it looks like Democrats have agreed to a 3-year extension of the subsidies, right? Because we get to pick what goes on the floor. Usually you don't get to do that when you're in the minority party. The majority party, in this instance, it would be the Republicans. They pick which legislation goes on the floor, but we didn't want to vote on a Republican bill, right? If we were going to work with them on the shutdown, we want to vote on a Democratic bill. And so what the Democrats have coalesced around is a 3-year extension of those subsidies. And so that should be what the vote is on. Now, that vote is probably going to fail. So once again, you have Republicans being on record again, being against healthcare with no plan of their own. But even without all of that, if that bill fails, which I think it will, then the premiums are still going to go up because there's still nothing else in place. And so people are going to feel that, and they would have known and they would have seen that we kept putting solutions on the table to help them with that. Republicans kept saying no. And not only are they saying no, they've not proposed anything better.
Practical solutions, right? One of the things that I thought was interesting in the race in Tennessee,
Hmm.
she had a concrete proposal to end Tennessee's 4% grocery tax,
Mm,
right?
come on.
And she wanted to legalize marijuana and use the revenue from marijuana to fix the roads,
Come on now.
right? They would have probably been the best damn roads in the world.
Man, let me tell you, endless money,
You know what I'm
right?
saying?
Endless
You mean
money.
you mean to tell me the dope man's 2 for $5 can help me get better reflection on on the stretch between, Chattanooga and Knoxville.
Yes, yes.
You know what I'm saying?
And I don't care what income bracket you in, everybody gets surprised by that grocery
Right.
bill because you get there and you like, how I'm at 100, I ain't got nothing.
Bruh.
How we at
And I
$100? I only got a couple things.
and it's crazy when we talk about working class voters.
Mhm,
When you and I talk about working class voters,
mhm.
people are gonna automatically think, "Oh, you're talking about Democrats."
Mm-mm.
But a working class voter is just that. They're a
Mhm,
voter,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
They vote against the issues, they vote for the issues.
mhm.
But when they want to hear practical solutions about their everyday lives and not this more so culture war, right?
Mhm, mhm,
Like,
mhm.
you mean to tell me you care more about a trans person versus how much you paying at the grocery store,
Right, right,
right?
right,
Like, what's really important to you?
right. And like you said too about like the importance of not labeling, right, and not putting people, firmly in a party. And you and I both, we deal with this all the time in our work, right? Particularly in our efforts to try to get the Democrats to expand and um, focus on certain groups, right, in terms of making them more firmly a part of our coalition. Most people, right? So people will look at a group of black voters and they'll just say, oh, all those black men, they're Democrats. They're just assuming that they're Democrats because they're black. But the truth is, you start really talking to them, right? A lot of the infrequent voters, they're neither. They're neither, right? They maybe kind of might be a Democrat if they vote, but they ain't really either. They're looking for, the expansion opportunity there is, well, who is it, right? Sometimes it's about the specific candidate, but it's about the candidate, the person, and what they have to say. And those folks can go back and forth, and I know we're probably going to talk a little bit today about some of the gains we've made with men, right? But you and I particularly saw this like in the Georgia numbers, right? In these recent elections, right? Particularly when there was scrutiny around black women turnout for Stacey Abrams versus black male turnout for Stacey Abrams, right? And why the men kind of lagged a little bit behind. But numbers like that tell you that like you can't just assume that they're just Democrats. Like a lot of the infrequent voters that you need to expand the electorate, they are neither. They want to know who's going to do something for me and who has a real plan and a genuine sincerity for the predicament or the situation that I'm in. And we can't make that mistake as Democrats and just assuming that because somebody's of somebody's race or because they live in a rural area that they're off limits to our message.
Right. And I think one thing that Trump is very good at is political theater, right?
But yeah,
It's
master.
not policy. He's not a policy wonk. He's not a, strategy person. He's all about the theater. And
Mm-hmm.
I think in his recent antics, right? The putting money in every kid's pocket
Yeah, the Trump
promise,
accounts.
Trump accounts,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds great, but details matter. And is this real policy or is this just another check with
Mm-hmm.
his name on it, right? And knowing that's what you can use going into the midterms. Well, we put money in your kid's pocket with these Trump accounts,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
And so you got to give him credit.
yeah, I do. I mean, look, he learned. He remembers, right? We all remember them COVID checks, and how many people went and voted. How big of a deal that
That's
was,
what.
right?
That's listen.
He
I mean,
remembered, you know.
let's not forget. Like those were also the reasons why, and you and I both say this. One
Hmm.
of the big reasons why Ossoff and Warnock won that
Hmm.
special election
Hmm.
because it was like, if you get these two elected, this is
Yeah,
going to be a check
that's gonna be a
coming
check.
your way
That's
very
gonna
soon.
Mhm. Yep. And I think Trump saw that. He remembers it. But I do hope that this is one of the areas where we can actually work with him on a bipartisan basis to figure out a workable policy. And you've seen some Democrats put stuff forward on this too, like Cory Booker often puts forward a baby bonds bill. But basically, the concept is that, a child is born, there's money instantly put into an account that accrues interest and in the market over the years. The kid gets the money when they are 18, and they can use it for certain things like helping to pay for college, maybe helping for a down payment on a house. I think that those are things that we should figure that we are for, right? And this is something that we should actually try to figure out how to work with him on, and figure out a good way to get this done. And if we're going to be upset about anything, as Democrats on this, we should have thought of it first, and we should have did it first, because I'm telling you, it's the kind of thing that has resonance with people. And to your point about just practical policy solution, this is what people are talking about. This is what people are talking about. So you're basically just it's almost like a social security check, right? You're basically just establishing that for a baby that's born. And as a parent, you can put money in and match it, as well, and actually have a nice nest egg of sorts there to kind of help your kid out. And we need to be thinking that way too, because one of the things I've always wanted to see, particularly with student loans, right, which we know disproportionately African Americans have to go into debt to go to college. I feel like you should only have to pay student loans for a decade. Anything after that, they should just write off.
Right.
And the economics is there to support this. And what you paid over those 10 years, right? That money, you should have the option to have that money transferred to a down payment on a house or some
Mm,
other things, right? All of that is better economics. It is better, right, than the system we have now, because your people are getting skills, they're getting trained, and you're keeping them participating in the economy, right? When
yeah.
people are
Yeah.
just paying down a student loan debt, that's not the best use of their productivity and of that dollar in the economy. But we need innovative things like that, particularly for people in hard to fill jobs and positions like nursing and different things like that. You look at the amount of debt somebody has to go into to become a doctor and different things like that. So we need that. Now, some people might look at that and say, Kevin, that sounds very progressive, and you're a more moderate Democrat. Now, I'm a common sense Democrat. I'm a common sense Democrat. That's common sense. It sounds reasonable. The data backs it up, and it's popular. So I don't care if it's Mondani, Spanberger, whoever. That sounds like something to run on. And
Right.
those are the
If
kind of things we should be putting forward.
And again, this is why we always stress people to actually investigate and actually look at
Hmm.
what people are offering up.
Hmm.
Right? Is
Hmm.
is there actual substance there,
Hmm.
or is it just a bunch of fluff? Right?
Hmm.
And so, right, like again, what is it saying? The sun shines on a dog ass every once in a while. Right?
I mean,
Like
well, this is the Southern Comfort podcast, so we got some old Southern uncles that probably have said things like that. Sure.
and I will always say there's always good that comes out of a problematic situation,
Yep. Yep.
right? And so, and when I say that, I mean even with Trump, right? There are new leaders that rise up to the occasion and new things that happen, right? And you
Hmm.
have to find it and be able to capitalize on it.
Yep.
And again, right now, while Republicans are fumbling on policy and on other things, can Democrats make history and see who's stepping up to lead and follow?
Hmm.
And I think you talked about it, right? Like we're talking about sort of kitchen table issues,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
um, that are going to start coming into play, particularly as we enter 2026.
That's right.
Again, guys, 2026 are two things happening. We have it's the midterm elections.
Yep.
You have congressional seats that are going to be up for play,
That's right.
right? But you also have gubernatorial races or statewide races in certain states that are going to be up to play. And right now, back in what was it, 2018, Kevin, you and I had the opportunity to work on a couple of gubernatorial races for black candidates. And right
Hmm.
now, we're starting to see another slew of black candidates up running for governor. You
Yeah.
have Westmore in Maryland, who's
Hmm.
running for reelection.
Hmm.
He's struggling when it comes to his gerrymandering fight.
Hmm. Hmm.
You have Byron Donalds, that's yes, the same, Trump is my daddy, Byron Donalds. You have you don't know Mandela. Mandela Barnes, who is also a HBCU grad.
Yep.
He is announced he's former lieutenant governor of Wisconsin. He has announced that he's running for governor of Wisconsin.
Hmm.
You have Jason Estevez and Keisha Lance Bottoms,
Yeah.
both people of color, and I guess Roman, who's running
Yeah.
for governor here in Georgia. Oh, as well as Michael Thurman. Can't forget
Yeah.
about Michael Thurman.
Yeah.
Then you have rumors of Harold Ford Jr. possibly running for considerations.
For
It's
governor in
interesting,
Tennessee?
or New York, right?
Oh, I was about yeah, he did move to New York, yeah.
Right. So that's very interesting.
That's an interesting, I don't why would he do that? He ain't gonna be Hochul. But but
Listen,
but to your point though, with black candidates running for governor, Antonio Delgado, former
uh,
congressman, the current
uh,
lieutenant governor. He's a current lieutenant governor. He's running against the governor, and in New York, it's like a ticket. So like this is like Vance running against Trump, right? Like it really that's a whole mess going on there. And then in Florida too, you got Jerry Demings, who's gotten into the race on the Democratic side. That's Val Demings, former Congresswoman Val Demings' husband, but he's a mayor of one of the large counties here in Florida as well. So he has so you might in Florida, you might actually have two black candidates running against each other for governor, where regardless of the outcome, there's some history that's made.
right. And so, historical context, we saw this. The last time we had multiple black governors actually in office was 2011. You brought this up, was
Mm-hmm.
2011,
Mm-hmm.
with David Patterson in New York and Duval Duval
Mm-hmm.
Duval Patrick, who was the governor of Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just to reflect again, in 2018, we had the beauty of doing things for
Yeah.
Ben Jealous, who ran for mayor, came very close. Andrew Gillum, who came very close in Florida. Stacey Abrams, who was, of course, running in Georgia.
Stacey won.
Yeah.
She won
Okay.
that one. No, she did. She won.
Yeah. Sure.
I said it. She
Yeah.
won. Now that
Yeah.
second
Sure.
one, we didn't win that second one, but that first one, we won.
So Governor Project Stacey Abrams, because
So whatever, honorary governor or whatever, because they stole that one.
um,
They did.
but these aren't just aspirational campaigns, right?
Mhm.
Some
Mhm.
are incumbents and some are strong contenders,
Mhm.
right? It'll be interesting to see what Mandela can really do in Wisconsin. He
Mhm.
came close to winning the Senate race, right?
Yeah.
And I think what his shortfall was folks didn't like his pedigree. That's honestly what it was. That there were
Mm.
and rumors that because he didn't go to an elite college and that he didn't have the background, that people didn't want to give him the money that he needed to take him over the edge and win that center race, similar to what happened with Ben, right? If Ben just had a couple, couple of people pushed to get him more on TV, he could have won that race as well.
He
And
could
so
have.
funding is always an issue when it comes to black candidates.
Yeah. Now the thing that's interesting about Mandela, you mentioned like his pedigree. What's so interesting about that, if that's an issue for people, Scott Walker, former Republican governor of Wisconsin, he was a high school graduate.
Right.
He, so if that's your criteria, as so you say, right? If that's your criteria, um, education and level of education, well, Scott Walker only went to high school. And he was governor. He was governor, I want to say, for 2 terms. So, you know, candidates, but that's also part of the reason why it's been so few, right, black governors. And it's also why it's been a very rare occurrence where you had more than one serving at the same time. I think right now we have a historic number of black senators all serving at the same time. But we've never seen the numbers at the gubernatorial level, really get that high. And so we got some really good candidates that are up, which makes me excited. And we might see some history made that we missed out on, right? In 2018, with us, and both of us were involved in all three of those races. So we'll see, what happens, but I was very happy to see Mandela get into that race. I think West will be fine, in his reelection. And I think we got a pretty good chance of possibly having 2 or 3 black governors. And it'll be interesting. We'll find out if that's a bipartisan group or not, right? If Byron Donalds breaks through and becomes the first black governor of Florida
Well,
as a Republican.
I think what worries me about Wes Moore is if he can't deliver on Maryland's gerrymandering issue, um, that will weaken him in terms of his 2028 case for president, right? And so, voters want to see governors who deliver on key promises that they make, right? And so, um, it's just interesting to see how that's going to turn out because you look on the other side or the other coast, and Gavin Newsom delivered on his promise,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so, right, like there's just that give and take.
And Gavin's already been vocal saying Maryland needs to step up and lead, but the challenge that West is having right now is his Senate Majority Leader, who's also a Democrat, isn't on board with the plan because they've done something like this before in Maryland and it didn't pass constitutional muster and it got held up in the courts and rejected. And so he's just hesitant to do it. The Senate Majority President is, but we'll see what happens because the tough part about running for president in a blue state too is that like a lot of your accomplishments don't really get their full due because people say, well, it's a Democratic state. You're a Democratic governor. You had a Democratic legislature. You should be able to pass whatever you want. Um, in theory, yes. Gavin has shown on at least this one big issue, right? If nothing else, he was able to do that. And so it will become a bit of, I think, a litmus test for West. I don't know how much staying power, it'll have, but I do think that if West and Gavin end up running against each other for president, we will certainly, this point will be made if West doesn't get it done.
Yeah, yeah. And I think again we're still talking and focusing on 2026 and the races we have coming up.
Mm-hmm.
There's one race that has there's one race in 2026 that actually has a filing deadline this coming Monday on December 8th, and on a decision whether you're going to be in the race or not.
Mm.
And that is for Texas U.S. Senate.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about your boo thing,
Mm. Don't get me in
Jasmine
trouble.
Crockett. You done said it publicly that you rock with her. I mean, we rock with her all together.
Mm-hmm.
But there's been rumors, and she's flirting with the idea of jumping in the U.S. Senate race in Texas, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
um, should that happen, she's been playing with the idea. There was a poll that came out in September that had her at 31% over the 2 people that are currently in the race,
Yeah.
Colin Allred, who previously ran before and
Yeah.
lost,
Yeah.
and I think James Tellerico.
Yeah.
Colin, I'm not big on Colin, and he was at 13%, and Tellerico was at 25%. I think the biggest concern is, right, like, um, she's controversial, right?
To some people she will be, right? She definitely will be running an expansion election if she gets into it. But my biggest concern is I don't want to lose her leadership in the House of Representatives, right? I would hate for her to get into the race, not be successful, and then we don't have her voice in Congress anymore at all. But what's interesting though about that number 2 with Colin, who is also black. Now Colin was the nominee last time, and I want to say about $60 million were spent. So to have $60 million spent, right, and you are only at 13% now, right? That's
Problematic.
not a good sign. And then particularly when you ran statewide, has $60 million spent, and you're losing that badly to a state legislator and another person who only represents a congressional district currently in the state. So I think it's a certainly she could win the nomination. I think she would be an exciting candidate. I got mixed feelings about it. She'd be an exciting candidate. She certainly, but we play this game with Texas though, all the time where we think it's on the verge of possibly flipping, we turned out that it was just a little too early.
Yeah.
But you only flip it and you only compete you only flip it and get there when you compete, and at least she would make
But
it competitive.
right. And so her strengths, right? She could she would do great with black and brown voter
Yep.
enthusiasm, right?
Yep.
She would probably do pretty great in national fundraising, right?
Oh, yeah. She's already
Um,
has. Yeah.
Social media presence is through the roof, right? I think the problem, and you said it as well, and a lot of operatives, our fellow Democratic operatives, they're frustrated with top tier candidates competing against each other, right? Instead
Mhm.
of coordinating um, for like a different on statewide races. It's just like, well, why can't you run for this, and why don't they run for that? And
Mm,
that is a problem that we don't do, right? Politics is one thing. Politics is about is ego,
mhm,
and
mhm.
so she has till the 8th to really decide if she's going to get in this race or not, which is a few days away. But should Democrats be excited about Crockett's strength or worried about her general election challenges, right? And this is the kind of honest conversation that Democrats need to have, and they need to have them now, right?
Mhm,
Not
mhm,
after the primary, right?
mhm.
Compare to Tennessee, where the inter-party debate about Bain's progressive happened after the race, right? And
Yeah.
so we're not, again, like on the basketball court, and just on in sports in general, you're said to talk to your teammates, communicate to your teammates about what's going on,
Yeah.
and I feel like we're still haven't mastered that, right? Like that
Mhm.
inter-party conversation amongst one another about who should be doing what, how we can help one another build and move forward,
Yeah.
and until that, I think those are one of the downfalls that we have, and that again shows where's the internal leadership amongst our party electeds.
Well, a part of it too for us is the brand overall, and one of the things that improves the brand is not just strong candidates but strong tickets, right? So in Texas, as an example, you clearly there's something happening with Tellerico. I think he's a phenomenal talent, has enormous potential. So yeah, it's kind of like, well, why not have Jasmine run for Senate and you run for governor, and we just put a strong, we just build a strong ticket, right? And go out there and run. So you're right. That level of strategy needs to be a part of, right, how we kind of put ourselves forward as a party to make some new ground and break some new ground in these races. And then what I also don't want to see happen though too is that like you said, progressive, we get into these fights, somebody got to be progressive, somebody got to be this. I don't want that lens. It would be so unfair for that type of a lens or filter to be applied to Jasmine Crockett, right? Because we did Wendy Davis, right? Out there, we did Beto out there. Why now with the black woman, right? Is it risky? And so we gotta be careful, right, with that too. And that's part of, to your point about like black candidates not getting the investment and stuff like that too, is because it's just always inherently thought that we are risky, right? Well, I don't know. You got to get a safe, moderate white man if you want to win, right? And that all of that, we have to always fight and push back against that, even within our own party. And the last thing I say on this too, let's not forget, even in Georgia, right? All the conversations when Warnock and Ossoff were running at the same time, all the conversations was about how Ossoff was going to pull Warnock across the finish
Right,
line. The
right.
opposite happened.
Vice versa.
The black guy got the most votes and pulled the white guy over.
Listen, you and I both know in movies in Hollywood, the black person is the voice of wisdom. Right? And so, I think three things, three keys for 2026, right?
Mhm.
Maintain enthusiasm, right? That Tennessee level turnout and special election proves that base is activated,
Mhm.
right? We got to keep that energy going through in November 2026,
Mhm.
which means that we need to be pushing people to vote in the midterm primaries,
Mhm.
right? We have to lead with solutions. We're talking about healthcare, we're talking about grocery costs, infrastructure, concrete plans that, beat out the culture war conversation, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And we got to call out the hypocrisy, and we got to continue to do that, right?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
Biden age concern versus Trump, and his health decline.
Mhm.
We're demanding that Republicans and their healthcare plans be present or shut the fuck up and let us do what we need to do,
Mhm.
right? Like momentum isn't about destiny, right? Like Democrats need to translate that energy into organization.
Mhm.
We've said that constantly, time and time again, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
translate that into organization, translate that into raising your money, translate that most importantly to candidate recruitment, right?
Mhm.
Like who do we have to challenge a lot of those, high Trump districts, those like in Tennessee, Trump plus 22,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? I'm pretty sure it's upwards of 40 districts that we could be very competitive in
There are.
and make and use Tennessee as that blueprint, right? To
Mhm.
show we can execute to scale,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
get things going. Um, yeah, man, it's like we need to run on working class economics, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
Republicans are focused on being warriors for MAGA. They're not focused on solutions.
Mhm.
And that's what we need to focus on. True, real, hard solutions.
Yeah, that to me, that's the big takeaway. We had success everywhere.
So yeah, man, 2026 isn't guaranteed, but motherfucker is winnable,
Yeah,
right?
we can make some real headway. But the work really, we got to build on what we've already been able to accomplish in 2025 to see it come to fruition. And then we can have the conversations that we really want to have about issues like healthcare.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, man. Listen, there's more to come. I think we'll see what our sister Jasmine Crockett does.
Mhm.
I wish her listen, whatever she decides to do, we'll be behind her, people will be behind her.
Mhm.
But she has a voice, she has leadership. And the girl is just smart and brilliant. Like you're
Mhm.
not gonna catch her
Mhm.
slipping,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I was watching a lot of interviews of hers and like they try to catch her slipping and she's like, nah, player.
Mhm.
I ain't the one, I'm definitely not the two.
Mhm.
No, I'm saying?
Mhm.
We've already given out our Mamba moment um, to our sister Felicia. I'm sorry, Debbie Allen
Felicia can
and
get it too.
Felicia.
Yeah, Felicia can get it too. Yeah. Yeah.
Felicia can get it too. All right. No pause. Full throttle. Yeah.
And on
With that
that,
being said, we really appreciate you guys for joining. Again, happy holidays. Stay safe, stay dry, stay warm. Really, is about giving back. It's always about giving back. So make sure you're helping those who are less fortunate, especially in this time because we need it. Peace, much love. Like, subscribe.
yes. Thank y'all for the support. Peace.
All right.